Also, after everything that happened up until that point, how self-centered do you have to be to not realize that the monster was gonna go for your wife? I mean, come on, that was pretty obvious. Hello, I'm Remilia and welcome to my channel. Here we talk about adventures, mostly in the form of books, both reading and writing them. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus, is a gothic science fiction novel originally published in 1818, basically a lifetime before last week's book, Dracula. The story about Victor Frankenstein and his monster has become as much of a classic as Bram Stoker's huge novel. I mean, this is the size difference. Frankenstein is about half the size as Dracula. And in terms of monsters, Dracula and Frankenstein's monster is probably two of the most well known. Despite their different sizes and danger levels, the two novels have similarities. For one, they're both told in letters, though Frankenstein is more told from one sender to one receiver, even if we have multiple letters, while Dracula is told through different senders and receivers and journal entries. They're also both painting quite a similar picture of the society they're told in. That's pretty much where the similarities end, because while Bram Stoker paints his monster as dangerous and strong, and not to mention about 400 years old, Mary Shelley paints her monster as, if not very young, also kind-hearted and misunderstood. The human characters are also very different in the two novels. While both have the sweet and innocent female characters, their male characters could not be more different. While Dracula's main characters are strong, brave men who are trying to rid the world of a monster, Victor Frankenstein is nothing like them. I don't think I've felt a main character being more undeserving of the respect people around give him since the Fate's Day Night series. I mean, sure, his monster is hideous, but if you create a being so ugly and terrifying that you yourself flee your apartment as soon as this creature comes to life, and then you come back and your reaction to the fact that this creature is gone, it's not, oh no, what have I done to the world, or maybe I should find him and put an end to it. I don't know what he is capable of yet. No, not Victor. Instead, his first thought is, whew, I don't have to see him anymore. And then he falls into a fever for over a month. I mean, yikes, talk about not thinking outside of yourself. Yes, Victor does feel bad about putting this monster out into the world, but he's not doing anything about it. In fact, he's not even thinking about doing anything about it. At least not until a lot of people around him are dead and the monster kills his wife. But even then, his resolve to hunt this monster down doesn't come from responsibility, but more from revenge, because how could this monster do this to me? Also, after everything that happened up until that point, how self-centered do you have to be to not realize that the monster was gonna go for your wife? I mean, come on, that was pretty obvious. The fact that we read this story as Victor himself tells it to Walton, and we still clearly see that he is the biggest poop in this story. That's kind of a feat in itself. I mean, even from the view of the creator who hates this monster and everything the monster has done to him, we can still see that the monster is the one who has suffered the most. And that is why Victor himself is telling us that he is the one who has suffered so much because of this monster. Why didn't he do anything about the monster when he first created it, instead of running away, being relieved that the monster was gone, falling ill and going home? The next time Victor runs into the monster, it's been 2 years. So for 2 years, he let this monster run free out in the world, while knowing he created him with advantages over man. And he's just been trying to ignore it. Because if he doesn't think about it, it's not a problem. And while he thought, oh, it's probably bad that I did this, his main thoughts are, as long as it doesn't come near me and the people I care about, it's fine. Okay, let's take a break. I'm getting a bit too fueled up by this. So let's talk about the formatting. Since this is part of a collection with last week's book, many of the same issues I had are present here. I must say though that I've gotten kind of used to the chapters starting wherever they want by now, so that doesn't bother me as much. But there are still some formatting decisions being made, like the drop cap in the middle of some chapters, or like inside of chapters. I know this is a decision because it happens at least 3 times, but if you don't know, this is a drop cap. They're usually in the beginning of a new chapter, and in some cases, mostly in fantasy, they can be really decorative as well. It did feel good though to have actual drop caps. Dracula, since it's told in journal entries and such, doesn't have the same chapter structure, so it was really nice to see proper chapters with drop caps. Also, as someone who loves the Mad Scientist trope, how the hell did Victor become the prototype for this, and this, and this, and this, and this? I mean, the creation of the monster happened in one chapter, in which he kind of came off more as someone really deep into a passion project, which I guess kind of follows the Mad Scientist trope, but since it was for such a short period of time, it didn't get to that point, at least not for me. And after that I saw him more as a self-centered man who thought his mistake would disappear if he ignored it hard enough. Okay, maybe he's not that self-centered, because we does get a lot of description of the nature of his homeland. I know what is being said about Tolkien and his tree describing, but as far as I've come in Lord of the Rings, those actually have something to do with where we're going. I don't need chapter on chapter on chapter describing the nature with Victor's misery sprinkled in like a mild spice. In Lord of the Rings, at least, we have the descriptions that add something. other than words and pages. Frankenstein could have been as short as next week's book, which is half the size of this one. Okay, I'm getting a bit too bitter again, so let's talk about anyone else. The monster he creates really comes off as kind-hearted and actually really caring about the people around him. Everything this guy wants is for one person to acknowledge him and not run away in fear and give him some place he belongs. And also, I mean, what is wrong with people? I mean, I know he's a monster and his monster's appearance isn't something they're used to, but he gets shot because he rescues a woman. He spends his time learning to read and write and speak from this French family living in a cottage in Germany, and he helps them out with tasks, so when they wake up they have firewood, they have paths made for them in the snow. And I mean, the old blind man does speak to him and doesn't run away before his children comes in, screams and leaves the house forever. And after all he's been put through because of him being created, all he's asking for is a partner that doesn't fear me, and we will live in peace far away from humanity. I'm not going further in on that. Our other main character, Walton, he seems like a decent fella. He's probably the only seeing person who takes the time to listen to him, and even though he somehow believes everything Victor has told him and sees the monster from Victor's perspective, he does take the time to listen and let the monster go away. Maybe if the monster ran into him in the first place, he wouldn't be here. Or if anyone at all just hadn't screamed and tried to fight him or run away. I'm also curious as to what Elizabeth would have thought about the monster. I would like to believe that she would be able to see past his appearance and would have been kind to him as long as her future husband didn't get to her first. Of course. Imagine that outcome. The monster befriends Elizabeth, she sees what an ugly personality Victor has. What a beautiful thought. There's probably a lot of fanfiction about it already though. Now to the big question. Is Victor Frankenstein the modern Prometheus, as the title wants us to believe? I mean, I can see where it's coming from. I really can. But it feels more like he would want to be the modern Prometheus more than he actually is. I am in no way an expert at Greek mythology. I'm leaving that to my friends. From my very brief understanding of Prometheus, at least he took responsibility for his action and was willing to face hardships for what he believed in, and what he believed in was things outside of himself. Victor Frankenstein is just a self-centered coward. Now, I did not hate reading this book. Some parts were really enjoyable. It is sad that our main character ruined a lot of it, but I would still give it a 3 out of 5 stars. And Also, I would like to say that I would not say that this is a spooky read at all. So, you don't have to read it in spooky month. You can read it whenever. And if you don't like spooky or scary things, the most scary thing in here is humanity as a whole. Well, at least it acted as inspiration for the character I named my car after. And we got a lot of great mad scientists. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great adventure, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! But having them in the middle of chapters, that felt kind of weird. And the first time I was like, what?